Aptera just dropped an image that stopped the entire EV community completely cold. Not a render, not a teaser, a real photograph of an actual chassis sitting wide open. You can see the wiring, you can see the suspension. The battery pack is right there visible. This is not marketing material designed to hide everything behind a pretty surface and reveal nothing. This is the real thing, and it is absolutely loaded with details most people will simply walk past. So today, we are going to slow down and actually look at this thing together carefully. Every wire in this image is telling us something important about how this vehicle works inside. Every line routed through this chassis represents a decision somebody made for a specific reason, while every component visible here is a clue about where this vehicle actually stands in development right now. Some of what we see confirms things the community has suspected and discussed for a long time. Some of it raises brand new questions that nobody in the community was really asking before now. And a few things are genuinely puzzling in ways that make you stop and think hard about it. The kind of puzzling that makes you wonder if brilliant engineering is hiding just behind the surface, or whether someone made a call that the team might quietly revisit somewhere further down the road. Either way, this image deserves more than a quick glance and a thumbs up in the comments. Let us start from the very first thing your eye lands on when you look at this. The orange wiring jumps out immediately, and if you know EVs, you already know what orange means. By industry convention, orange lines carry high voltage. Every manufacturer follows this same standard color coding. Aptera is following it here too, so you can trace the power story just by following orange. The high voltage lines start at the battery pack. They travel forward toward the front of the vehicle. They connect directly to the motors. That is the basic loop that makes any electric vehicle actually move. You can see the entire path of that loop laid out in a single open image here. It is genuinely satisfying to see something that normally hides inside a finished car sitting completely exposed. The motors are positioned at the front. You can see them clearly sitting on both left and right sides. Around them, you can spot all the suspension components packed tightly into that front section together. Transversely mounted shocks, control arms, the drive shaft, steering components, all sitting right there visible and open. It is a dense cluster of engineering packed into a relatively compact space at the front end. And it looks deliberate. It looks like a layout someone thought about carefully before committing to it permanently. But here is where things start to get genuinely interesting if you look just a little closer. Look carefully at the chassis structure itself, because this is not one single giant cast piece at all. What appears to be happening is that the front section is being cast completely separately from the rear. And then those two separate cast pieces are welded together in the middle using linear structural sections connecting them. You can actually see the weld points in the image if you study it carefully enough to find them. This is actually a smart manufacturing approach when you sit down and think it through properly. Casting one enormous single-piece chassis would require tooling at a scale that is extraordinarily expensive to manage. By splitting into a front cast and rear cast, you reduce that complexity in a significant, meaningful way. The result still gives you structural rigidity in all the critical load-bearing areas of the vehicle, while keeping the manufacturing process far more practical and achievable at the production volumes they are actually targeting. This is a decision that speaks to production thinking, not prototype thinking. That difference matters enormously right now. Now, let us talk about the lines in this image that are not orange. There are two others. The black lines appear to be coolant lines based on how thermal systems typically route through a vehicle. Thermal management is absolutely critical in any electric vehicle performing the way customers and engineers both expect. The battery generates heat during charging. The motors generate heat. The power electronics generate heat constantly too. You need coolant moving through the entire system to keep temperatures in the right ranges always. Without proper thermal management, the performance drops, the range drops, and the longevity of components drops significantly. So seeing coolant lines routed through here is expected. It is necessary. It is a good sign overall. And then there are the white lines. And this is where things get genuinely interesting and a little mysterious. Someone from the community, through a Discord discussion, suggested these white lines are actually refrigerant lines instead. Looking at them closely, that guess seems solid. They have a different character compared to the black lines. They look metallic. They look like what refrigerant lines typically look like inside an automotive HVAC system. But here is the question that jumps out immediately the moment you accept that identification as correct. Why are refrigerant lines running all the way to the very rear section of this vehicle? That routing feels unusual compared to what you typically see in most conventional vehicle thermal architectures out there. In most layouts, the refrigerant system stays concentrated near the front where climate control components normally live. Running those lines all the way to the back adds length, adds potential leak points along the way. It adds complexity. It adds cost. Every extra meter of refrigerant line is a meter that matters. There may be a very good engineering reason for it that is simply not visible from this photograph. Perhaps there is a thermal management function happening at the rear battery section requiring refrigerant specifically there. But from the outside looking in, that routing absolutely raises a flag worth asking about directly and soon. And speaking of routing decisions that raise flags, let us now talk about the high-voltage battery layout. Here is what you notice when you look carefully and patiently at this section of the image. All of the battery pack inputs are located at the rear section of the pack. Every single one. The high-voltage lines plug in there at the back and then travel forward the full vehicle length. They have to reach the motor controllers and the motors sitting all the way at the front end. That is a long run. And long high-voltage runs are genuinely not ideal from any engineering standpoint. They add weight to the vehicle. They add cost to the build. They add complexity to the assembly. Every extra meter of high-voltage cabling is a meter that must be carefully shielded and protected always. Now think about where the charge port lives on this vehicle. It is located at the rear. So the path from the charge port to the battery connection point is short. That part is good. Charging current does not have to travel far at all to reach where it needs to go. But then, the power leaving that battery to actually drive the vehicle forward travels the full vehicle length. It has to go all the way to the front before it can do anything useful at all. Here is the alternative worth thinking about seriously for just a moment before moving past this point. What if the battery connections were positioned at the front of the pack instead of the rear? Then the high-voltage lines running to the motors would be dramatically short, compact, simple, clean, efficient. The entire power delivery system would be concentrated right there at the front in one tight area. The only line needing to run the full length of the vehicle would be the single charge line. One long line instead of several long lines. That difference in wiring efficiency is actually quite significant. Fewer long runs means less material used. Less material means lower cost. Lower cost matters at production scale. It also means a slightly cleaner and simpler assembly process when you are building volume numbers consistently. Now there is a real argument for keeping the charge port at the rear. It is valid too. Supercharger stalls are designed with rear charge port vehicles very much in mind as the intended users. Backing into the stall is the intended approach for vehicles with a charge port at the back. If Aptera wants smooth compatibility with that kind of charging behavior, a rear charge port makes real sense. But a front charge port combined with front battery connections could also work in a very clean way. You could tuck the entire charging interface neatly under the nose of the vehicle almost invisibly there. There appears to be enough space for exactly that kind of solution in this chassis as designed. It would be cleaner, more hidden, and it would simplify the wiring architecture in a genuinely meaningful way. This design decision almost certainly has a reason behind it that no photograph alone can fully reveal. There is likely an engineering rationale going deeper than anything any outside observer can reasonably see right now. But it is absolutely a question worth asking directly and clearly when the right opportunity finally presents itself. And that opportunity is actually coming up in the not-too-distant future, which is exciting to consider. There is a planned visit to the Aptera facility, and the timing could not feel more perfectly timed. One of the most valuable things to do during that visit is find an engineer willing to talk. Not a PR walkthrough, not a curated presentation designed to show only what the company wants shown publicly. An actual technical conversation standing next to open hardware with a real engineer pointing at real components. That kind of access would answer questions that no amount of staring at photographs can ever fully resolve. Why do the refrigerant lines route the way they do all the way to the rear back there? Why are the battery connections positioned at the rear, forcing those long high-voltage runs to the front? Well, what is the long-term plan for the automated vehicles that were introduced at the facility years ago? These are all questions sitting in a growing pile that this single image somehow manages to generate alone. There is one more thing this image confirms clearly that is worth stating directly and without any ambiguity. This vehicle is not all-wheel drive. There is no motor mounted at the rear axle at all. The rear wheels in this chassis image are completely unpowered. The drive system is entirely front-focused here. That may be exactly what Aptera intended for this specific configuration and this specific build program right now. All-wheel drive may come later as a separate variant or a separate configuration offered to customers eventually. But what we are looking at right now in this photograph is a front-wheel drive architecture clearly. Also visible in the image are manual casters being used to move this chassis around the facility floor. The Red Viking. AGVs that were introduced at this facility several years ago are not visible here anywhere. Those automated guided vehicles came in with quite a bit of attention and fanfare when they first arrived. Whether they are still part of the active production plan is something that genuinely remains unclear right now. Whether they are being used elsewhere in the facility or whether the plan has evolved is also unclear. It is one more open question in a list that keeps growing the longer you study this image. What is not unclear at all is that these builds are actually happening and happening at a real pace. The chassis in this image looks real. It looks like genuine production intent hardware sitting there being assembled. The parts look like they belong in a finished vehicle, not sitting on a shelf in an engineering lab. Whether every component here is a final production part or still an iteration is worth investigating much more closely. There is a meaningful difference between a validation build made of production parts and one made of representative parts. That difference matters a great deal for understanding where Aptera actually sits in its real development timeline today. By current estimates, approximately 10 of these vehicles are being built simultaneously right now across the facility floor. 10 validation builds moving through different stages of completion at the same time is a serious commitment of resources. You do not build 10 chassis simultaneously if you are still trying to figure out the basic fundamentals. You build 10 at once when you are confident enough to stress test the design across multiple builds together. That is a meaningful signal about where the program actually stands, regardless of the open questions still remaining. It suggests the overall architecture is far enough along to commit to proving it out at real scale. And that is ultimately what makes this image so worth studying carefully, rather than just scrolling quickly past it. It is not just a photograph of a chassis with some orange wires and interesting suspension components visible. It is evidence that something real is being built by real people making real decisions about a real vehicle. A vehicle that is taking shape one assembly at a time on a real factory floor right now. There will be more to see soon, as more stages of completion get documented and shared with the community. There will hopefully be real conversations with engineers who can explain exactly what we are actually looking at here. Why the refrigerant lines route that way. Why the battery connections sit where they do at the rear. What the plan is for the automated vehicles. How close these builds are to final production specification overall. Every question this image raises is a question genuinely worth pursuing and worth getting a real answer for. Because right now, looking at this chassis laid out completely open with everything visible and exposed and real. One thing is already completely and absolutely clear without needing any engineer to explain it to us at all. This is no longer a concept being discussed in presentations. This is a vehicle actively being built right now. And it is a great deal closer to reality than most people in this community currently seem to realize.